speak love, everyone loves Lulu. See love, hear love, speak love, everyone loves Lulu.
Welcome to Everyone Loves Lulu. I'm your gracious host, man, guest host, not your average Joe Savage. Miss Lulu sends her love from Turks and Caicos, man, as she is on vacation with the familia. However, we have a really dope guest today. Everyone, please welcome, man, the founder of Brown Girl Woke, Doris Tulifau.
What's up, SoCal fam? I'm so excited to be here. 1 week away from going back to Samoa, and I'm glad to come and see my bro Joe and my sis Miss Lulu, who's not here, but she'll be back.
Yeah, man, you know what? She sends her regards. You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. You can't miss Turks and Caicos, right?
You can't.
So, Doris, man, you know what? A woman of many parts, right? I've been knowing this young lady, man, for some years now.
Decade.
Yeah, you know what? You know what I mean? Like,
Did it make you feel old?
You was doing your thing. No. Let's talk about it, right? So let's take this back, right? We first met out in what was it? No, Portland, right?
Portland.
Shout out to my brother.
No, even before that.
Out here, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Santa Monica College. Right?
Doing conferences.
I
think a lot of people don't know that about you too.
You know what?
You community activist. Why are you laughing?
That was like a whole different life, right? And yeah.
Yeah, you're a community activist. Every time I say, I go way back with Joe, and they're like, oh, for reals, how? And I said, he was a community activist. He was a mentor. So why are you laughing for? You were. It's always great to have someone like you to tell you what's real. And I think that's the thing that we're not making sure our youth have, is people to tell you the truth.
Definitely. I'm also trying to tell my truth, right?
And that's why you're not in the community work no more. It don't make money.
It don't make money, my peoples, right? But yeah, you know what? Definitely from that, and then you know what? Shout out to my brother Ronnie, right out there in the beautiful state of Portland, Oregon, and you actually were going to school out there, right?
Yeah. So I've been everywhere. I went to school everywhere. I went to school at a Christian college, Concordia. My boyfriend at the time, or ex-boyfriend, I shouldn't say boyfriend at the time.
Are we going there? Okay.
He went to Portland State with Rodney, so.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's how you made your way out there.
Yeah, that's how I made my way there, so.
Okay. So, I mean, you know what? Let's take a couple steps back. Like, let's talk about the beginning of Doris, right? Where did Doris grow up at?
I grew up in South San Francisco, Bay Area.
Talk about it.
South City. So a really good Samoan community there too. So every time I come to LA, it feels the same.
Similar?
Like Carson. It feels similar. We also, I grew up in the Gaiki church. So our pulengas were here. So we used to always come out. Actually, Carson kind of scares me because the first time I ever got jumped was at Carson. If you're watching this video at a church function, this is what I learned. If you're going to play volleyball and you're going to win, do it at school because you'll get a scholarship. Don't do it at church because you'll just get beat up.
Wow.
Carson.
Wow. Okay. First time in Carson, got jumped, right? Matter of fact, I think you're part of a gang now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't know what colors to come in. I was like, what colors do I wear?
If you got jumped while you're here, that means that you're part of a gang now. So, okay. South San Francisco. Man, yeah, how was it growing up there, though?
I grew up in, like I said, in a very traditional Samoan church family, super religious. We moved to Modesto. Modesto, 209. It's cow country.
Listen, that is a hotbed of meth, right?
Yes.
Methamphetamine.
You know what? I'm telling you, I lived in the city where there was no shootings, nothing happening. My first day in high school in Modesto, they had a shooting there. I'm like, how the heck in this little small town you have a shooting at a high school? But I came from the city and I never seen nothing until I got to Modesto. So my whole family moved to Modesto, our whole church, our whole family bought houses because it was cheap during the time. In the 90s. Houses were like, I think 100,000 back then. I know. Houses now are like...
Yeah.
Even in the hood is kind of like pushing. So yeah, our whole family bought houses. We bought a church, acre of land, and then we built from there. From there, then I went to college and did a lot of work, activist work, and that's how we met.
So, I mean, what was it about, the activism work that kind of drew you to it?
I think the biggest thing for me was when I I actually was not trying to do activist work because I have a lot of family that's in this work. I grew up watching them. Uncle Buena, who's Long Beach here, Auntie Manufo in the Bay Area. A lot of my family members, Auntie Asawiva. Shout out to all of these people. Samoa Community Development Center, Samoa Mo
Oh,
Samoa.
whoa.
These are 80s, 90s. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up watching them sacrifice, and I told myself, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go into this work where you do everything for your people, but it's never enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm not gonna get into this. I'm just gonna go do my own thing. And then you find yourself walking the
You find yourself doing the same thing?
yeah, doing the same thing. And I think with me, it was different because I learned not to be stagnant. I learned not to just stay in one space. Like they opened the doors for us. So what we need to do now is build off of that. Make sure their
Wow.
work is not in vain. Like we still have a lot of community activists that are still on the ground. What am I going to do next to make sure my family that did this work, that everyone sacrificed, that we're going to do something different? So for me, I mean, I'm in Samoa. That wasn't the biggest plan for me, but for me to look for resources. So going back, I'm going further.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when I was doing this work, I finally got into it. Like I was like, I want to do my truths. Like you said, what's your truths? I'm a survivor of sexual abuse and domestic violence.
Oh,
And a lot of people asked me to speak at places. First of all, I didn't even get training to speak. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I didn't find counseling. I wasn't healed. So imagine just putting people in places just because you're islander and this happened to you. You might
It's almost like
trigger.
it's almost like a token.
Yeah, you're a token person and you might trigger something. So what I did was I made sure to get counseling. I was lucky to be in a university setting where they had that for me. So I had counseling. I spoke at a lot of shelters for a few years before I went out. So with women's shelters, it's private. So no one knew I was speaking in these spaces until one day I was like, man, this is the time where I need to tell my truths, because my parents didn't even know that I was a survivor of any of these things,
Oh, whoa.
because I was keeping my safe net,
Yeah.
at these shelters. But a lot of us go through this. So I finally came out to my parents, then my church, and then I opened the spaces up. I made sure to find resources for our community if they wanted to speak about domestic violence and sexual abuse. But there still wasn't no data, and we know that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of data on PIs. We're still fighting, to separate ourselves from API, but we still need to find data. So for me to go back to Samoa, I wanted to see if they might have more resources, or they might have the solution, because it's all of our people. I went back to Samoa. It feels like it's worse
Wow.
back home. So it makes me, for me, it makes sense to me why we're so broken here, because it's so silent there. And we take that here, right? Like with my parents.
Yeah.
I didn't learn a lot from my parents. I had to learn from, like, you go to school, you learn from your teachers, and you come back home. We need to start breaking that cycle where we can talk to our parents, where our parents get those resources. We're already at the generation. A lot of us are my age. We have kids.
Yeah.
Are we breaking those cycles that unlearn those things that our parents didn't do for us? So that's what I've been doing with this work is, man, people have been hitting me up now. I live in Samoa and I do the work in Samoa, and people in LA, people in the Bay, people in Utah. Doris, where are the resources for domestic violence and sexual abuse? I don't even live here
Whoa.
anymore.
Yeah.
So that just shows you we not have a lot of people doing this work where they can go to if they're asking somebody that's been living in Samoa for 6 years.
But that also shows you that just the impact and the influence that you actually have, and you sharing your truth, right, and you being honest and forthright about your experience. Because I think the big thing that you're talking about, is not only just like past traumas, right, but you're also talking about mental health, right? And then so to actually, be brave enough to actually get on social media platforms, especially social media, right? Because everybody is behind the screen. Everybody can comment and criticize from afar, right? Behind
Yeah.
the screen, right? And then that makes you crazy vulnerable, right? And I'm pretty sure you've actually got some backlash for that as well. You know what I mean? Because I remember a few years ago you actually came onto the show, in the morning show, and you spoke about that. You know what I mean? And I mean, let's talk about that too. Like, you know what? It's yeah, okay. There's the bravery part, right? But then there's also the backlash of you actually coming out as well.
I think it's understanding our community. Why the backlash? Because a lot of us don't speak up because when Pacific Islanders, we don't represent ourselves.
Mm.
We represent our whole family. So when one person talks about being sexually abused or domestic violence, they feel like it's a whole group, like you're putting our whole family down. We put so much on ourselves. You know what I mean? Like when I talk to a lot of victims, I'm like, why didn't you talk to anyone? Well, my mom or my parents or my church or my family. That we never talk about ourselves. And that's something that I think it's ingrained in our culture,
Yeah.
our community, is to always think about everybody else. Always give, give, give. Never receiving or being or thinking about yourself. So with the backlash, I could take it now.
Yeah.
Probably before, when I was younger, it would be different. Luckily, we didn't have TikTok back in the day. But now I just understand my community. Like, I'm such in a place that I'm so healed. Like, when someone came to me and was like, I mean, it's happened. I've had family members like, why do you have to say your uncle? People are going to think it's one of us. And I'm just understanding, like, man, you need to be healed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes people, like, push out things. It's something that they're hurting. Hurt people kind of
True.
idea. But you have to understand your community. And it's always going to be our own community. It's always going to be the people that look like us that's going to come for us because we're scared. Because you might shine a light on them, right? And
the ugly truth.
Yeah, the ugly truth that everyone goes through this, but you want it to stop. We have to make sure this stops. And anybody that's listening and watching and wondering what resources, 911 is the fastest way.
Yeah.
I know we're so scared of cops because, just every minority group, it's not only the island group,
Right.
but even Googling, we have so much places to resource.
Yeah.
We don't need to be our own people. It would be nice. You know what I mean? If we had,
we have
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I understand why people hit me up because I'm PI.
Yeah, because you look like them, right?
I have the cultural background. I understand.
You know, they know you.
Yeah,
they feel safe.
Yeah.
Right.
And they know that you understand having
Exactly.
Islander parents, having an Islander community. How do you speak out? At the same time, we don't have these resources of therapists. And we look at these other communities, the Black community, the Spanish community, and they talk about therapy. We also need to promote our own therapy. I see a lot of doctors coming up, which is amazing.
Yeah.
The last year I had a Stanford, Harvard, and I think a Brown University social workers, all Samoan girls.
Talk about it.
I know, hit me up doing their paper on social work. And, usually, Samoan parents or Pacific Islander parents, when they have their kids go into those big institutions, they want them to be like doctors, engineers. So it's great that they see the need.
Yeah.
And this is what we need. There's too many of us that need resources and people that look like us that do this work.
What's interesting is that, now that you mentioned that is, I just recently seen on Instagram, there was a mental health therapist that was Samoan, and she put it out there like that. And I was like, that's really dope just because, like you said, there's just the lack thereof. You mentioned Samoa. Like, how did it go from you being in the Pacific Northwest to you actually making your way out to Samoa?
Like I said before, I was looking for more resources for us. And I was thinking, wouldn't there be answers in the country with all Samoans? You know what I mean?
You would think so.
where our culture is very high. Like there's Fa Samoa, there's, church. They must have answers there. So when I went there, I actually was doing research for my PhD. And when I got there, it was just even worse.
Wait, you said PhD?
Yes.
Okay, where are you getting your PhD from?
University of Hawaii.
Talk about it.
So I wanted to go there to do research. I was one of those people. I'm sorry, everybody. I thought I could go into Samoa for 3 months, find the answers, get the paper, and be out. I was trying to be a Margaret Mead.
Wow.
And when I got there, the first 3 months, I didn't get no answers. Doors were closed. Yeah. It wasn't easy. Just because you're Samoan, you go back to Samoa doesn't mean, and you think you have all the solutions, doesn't mean everyone's going to open their arms to you.
You're an outsider.
It was closed doors, slap doors for years. Yeah. I think this is my first year finally getting the respect and for myself to learn more as well. Because I went in there, guns rolling, like, I have the answers. I need this, I need that. And you have to understand you're going to an island that's been slower, that has a lot of things going, that 100 years of culture that are traditions that I'm trying to break through. And I just sat and just listened and learned and found better ways to get into the conversation. And that's how I became a chief. I
Oh
became
wow!
a
So you have a title.
yeah, I'm a Thai title. And
Wow.
that's I think that you have to do these sacrifices for the next generation.
Yeah.
So a lot of places you can't speak if you're not a chief. So I did that. I became a chief the first year I was home. I know you're looking at me.
Wow. Well,
So
let's not graze over that because um that's a huge honor for those that are actually watching that don't understand that. Like break that down for them.
so my village is Vanganga. My chief name is Maluseu, and you represent your family. So the other part of people that people don't understand that when you become a chief, you also can talk about things that happen in your village with your land.
Okay.
There's only
Land rights.
10%. Yeah, there's only 10% of women in Samoa that have chief titles.
Wow.
That is crazy. There's 200,000 people in Samoa, and only 10% of the country
Actually
there are
have
women that have titles. That's very low. And mind you, we need to be in these conversations. So it's a
yeah.
big deal right now if you guys have been paying attention to the politics in Samoa with Fiame and to the EPA.
Yeah, talk
who's
about that. I mean, because
um,
there's a change of the
Prime
head,
Minister.
right? Prime Minister, right?
So right now they're still in battle of who's going to become prime minister. They're saying that Fast won, and if they do win, it'll be the first woman prime minister.
Fast One is a political party.
Yeah, they're
Gotcha.
both. So Fast and HRPP are both political parties, and
It's almost like Democrat, Republican.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it's the same thing, and they have the same colors, red and blue.
Very interesting. Except for white.
So right now we could be. I mean, August 2nd is the last day for them to state who is the prime minister. So
Okay.
we might be going with the first. I think she'll probably be also the first woman prime minister in the Pacific.
That'll be
as
huge.
well.
Wow.
That'd be huge.
I mean, you look at the optics of it, right? You know what I mean? Of her being the first, right? You know what I mean? Because then now, you know, a young, a young girl that's growing up to see that, they're like, okay, then I can actually be
I can be that
the next prime minister, right?
and understand how to become that, because a lot of people don't know a woman to go into become a prime minister. You have to be a chief.
Okay, so let's take a step back and let's talk about the actual the title, right? What was the steps? You know what I mean? Because again, you're educating a lot of the people that are actually watching this that are not Samoan. Like, what did you have to do to go about getting an actual title?
So every family has a month of the year where they give titles out.
Okay.
So it's been years. They've been trying to give my mom a title, but my mom has been. My mom's not in Samoa.
Okay.
So my mom was like, I don't want to give a title. I'm not in Samoa. So when I moved over, it just made sense. She
opened the books.
Yeah, I
Okay.
moved over. I realized that I need a title as well to speak, and it just came together. So my mom put my name in to get the title. The family discusses.
Wow, it's
They
like the
say yes.
mafia, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
you,
mafia.
man, you open the books, they
Yeah.
put your name in the, you know what I mean?
And you register and you change your name. So my name is
Wow.
changed.
Okay.
So it's Maluseu.
Maluseu.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
register and you change your name in Samoa, and then you go to all the meetings each month, talk about land rights, talk about,
I mean,
know,
let's even talk about the process of that. Like, okay, so like, you know what I mean? Like, what had to go, and then talk about the ceremony, like your ceremony of actually
Yeah.
getting the chief title.
it's like I don't know if a lot of people see it, but it's one of you get to see this big old staff. It's like so cool, and you're walking around. But so I really did think I was the only person getting this title, and there was like 20. So, but that's okay. I still got my
You
title.
thought you was the queen. and
I
there
know. I
was like
thought I was the
20
queen. I was
other
like,
queens
what
over
are all
there.
these people doing here? So you all come together. We do the Ava ceremony.
Okay.
We sit around the circle. They give you the cup, and
What's the significance of that?
rebirth. Just like when you get your tattoos.
Okay.
Like your rebirth, you're a changed person now. So
Because you're changing the name,
Yeah.
you're taking on this title
Yeah.
now.
So you represent your village. The best thing about it, and I didn't even think about it until later, is that everybody in Samoa knows titles. So they know where it comes from. The
They
village.
know the genealogy.
Yeah. So when you say
Beautiful.
it, they know your village. So
Okay.
before, it was hard for me to say my title because I was always scared because my fa Samoa is not great.
Yes.
And I was scared if I say my title, they're going to be like
They're
speaking
like-
to me in tongues.
You're like, girl, that's in Tahiti.
I know. So, but then I realized with my family, they were like, no, you need to say your name everywhere you speak because then they know that you come from our family. our genealogy, you know what I mean?
The lineage.
Yeah, our lineage and our village. So it's a big deal for anybody that's out there that wants to get a title. Just ask your family members. You never know when the months are. If you want to just be a part of it and sit, it's a beautiful thing. It's
Yeah.
also 5 in the morning.
What do you mean? The
It's
actual
early in the morning.
the actual ceremony?
Yeah, because it's a long day. It's like 5 in the morning, all the family. So you had to invite your whole district, and your family has to feed the whole district. So
Okay.
the whole district could be like 20
Damn.
villages, and then each village comes in and they say their thing, and then they get like pusa, whatever,
Yeah,
a
the
box of,
tributes.
yeah, their
Okay.
box of tuna, whatever. But the coolest part that I seen when I was there was they were trying to say to give a gift to like the taxi driver, and then my uncle, who's the high chief, was like, no. And I was like, whoa. I think in America we were like, oh, okay, give.
The taxi driver.
Yeah, they were just trying to get everybody a gift. But the
You
cool,
get a car. You
yeah,
get a car.
yeah. This is Oprah. So the cool part is watching them say no to things, and being raised in Cali where we never say no. It's like, whoa, we can do that.
You'd be like, oh man, hey, get that back from old girl right there. She was
But yeah, no, it's a good thing to learn to be in both places. Like I was grow up going to Samoa, but it's totally different living there.
living there and then actually existing there,
Yeah.
right? So let's actually talk about the actual responsibilities that comes with actually getting a title, because I think that's the part that people don't understand, right? So now that you do have the title, you know what I mean, what does that come with?
I mean, you have to say your name everywhere. So you're representing your village.
Representing, okay.
You know what I mean? So you're representing your whole family. I mean, everyone says that we do that daily, but it's different when you have a title. You have to go to the family meetings once a month. You have to give money, money to things that deal with the village and the family. So it's totally different from just your family when it has to do with the village. So you go into things, and the great part is like there's always somebody in there that will translate to you. Like I feel like it'll be different here. Like I felt like someone growing up in Cali was always like grazed, like, oh, she's young. You know what I mean? Like you just sit here. But in Samoa, they actually come and sit down and talk to you and like, do you know what's happening? And
they explain it to you.
They explain it to you, which is an amazing thing. So my title is an ali'i. So I'm getting another title at the end of this year, which is higher.
Okay.
So that's my walk into Parliament. So I hope in the next 4 years I will also be running for Parliament.
Oh, you in this for the long haul?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm there for the long. I mean, like I said before, I've seen my aunties and uncles in the community work at the same position, coming back like 30 years. My hope is to keep going forward to make sure that all their work was for something.
Wow,
So me sacrificing. I didn't go there just to go. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do it all. I'm going to go and get the title. I'm going to go and run for Parliament. I'm going to go and change policy, which it will trickle to, the U.S., New Zealand, and Australia.
How so?
Just having a woman, just like how we said about female men.
Got you. Okay.
Seeing that, or seeing someone from overseas coming back to Samoa and getting rooted, and actually not just there for just a short time, or just giving and not making sure that you stay there for the whole process of everything.
I mean, do you see a lot of that where you actually have a lot of folks that actually came from,
I see their heart. Like I went to Samoa with a lot of friends. They all went back. It's not easy going back to Samoa. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think it's hard, if you think Samoa is hard here, imagine going to Samoa where it's 24/7. We do Samoa Saturday and Sunday, maybe Friday, but imagine every day. So it's not an easy task to do, to be there. It's kind of like a third world country. Poverty is real. Minimum wage is 3 tala. That's $1 US. You know what I mean?
You said 3 tala is $1 US.
Yes, for an hour.
So you're getting $1 an hour.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's what you're going to deal with when you come to Samoa. You're going to have all these big ideas, but you got to understand our
the
economy, our environment, what people are going through when you get there. You do, just like here, community work, you got to come with backup. You got to come with some kind of funding, or you'll burn out. And I've seen a lot of my friends, we all went at the same time. I'm the only one there. The difference between me and them is I came from a background of community work. I did community work.
So you knew how to kind of read.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing. Like I didn't jump with no money.
You're like, that's why it always burns out,
Yeah, it's what you
man.
always burn out because you have the heart. All our people have the
Yeah.
heart. We just got to understand that this work isn't easy. And taking people out of poverty is going to be more than workshops. You know what I mean? More than training. It's more than that. You got to find them resources where they do the work. We're trying to make sure that we're in there as long as we could train them up and they see it. Because we could think that we're doing all the things that they need to do, but what if they don't? What if
Yeah.
they just doing it to be there? So they're just a puppet and then you leave and then what?
There's no structure.
There's no
Oh,
structure.
gotcha.
So you got to be in there for the long run. You got to see it through. There's a process to everything. Stay in the process.
Wow. I mean, so I mean, you mentioned a really big thing with regards to work like that, right? There always has to be some type of like funding mechanism. You know what I mean? That keeps this thing alive because that's why they say, and you can kind of like research throughout history why movements die is because there wasn't a funding mechanism to kind of keep it going. You know what I mean? And so, as far as the work that you're actually doing right now, what is that fund? Is Brown Girl Woke that funding mechanism?
No, so I do get funded from a lot of different agencies.
Okay.
And that's why I'm keep on going. I'm lucky to be in Samoa. A lot of people leave Samoa.
Yeah.
Just like I said, minimum wage is $1. Who's going to stay?
Gotcha.
You educated, you're going to use your degree to stay there, or you could go outside. In Samoa, the remittance, the money that comes in from families is 200 million US a year. 200 million US comes in to give back to their families.
Gotcha.
That's crazy. Asuelu is real.
You know that
Big
guy?
ups to Asuelu Kalani. They actually also donate to Brown Girl Woke. But why are you laughing? But no, I mean, being honest, 200 million comes from overseas. So a lot of the families in Samoa are so used to money coming in, they could just chill out. You know what I mean?
So you think that deters a lot of folks from actually working?
Yeah, it does. Because
Wow.
look at, if your family sends you 100 US, that's 300 tala. And they could send you that, and that's more than you make 40 hours a week,
Yeah. Why would
right?
you work?
That's like 120 a week.
Why would you work?
Yeah, why would you work when you got money
Gotcha.
coming in from overseas? So we got to make ways in Samoa. For me, what I see is that they come back and we get so much money from everywhere. I mean, you see China in there. You know what I mean? We get money everywhere. Australia, the government has given us probably like $13 billion to end violence against women in 2013. It's 2021 and we still haven't ended violence against women. You would think that money would go into structures, it would go into bringing in, therapists and psychologists.
You said $13 billion.
13 billion. That's how much money that comes into our country. We have UN, we have the United Nations in there. If United Nations is in your country, they're getting money to do something to break, these taboo issues. But to be there in a small country of 200,000 people and we haven't yet, found these solutions and we get that much funding,
That's
we're
crazy.
making broken systems. So, yeah.
Okay. No. So let's talk about. We already mentioned it. Brown Girl Woke. Let's talk about the inception of that.
So Brown Girl Woke started, like I said earlier, I was always doing this work. I was
Okay.
always doing community work. I never was under any organizations. I was always under a university. It was my safety net to get away from NGOs because I knew NGOs, if you were with one, you could only be with one. So being in the university, all 10 NGOs would fund my programs.
Oh. Okay.
So
Okay.
I learned from there. You learn the hustle. So from that, as I kept doing the work, I realized like we didn't have funding that went to specific stuff that we needed. Like they always wanted us, the API agencies always wanted us to do stuff in like going to Washington, D.C., meeting Congress people or intern here. But we're still dealing with domestic violence, sexual abuse, are people going to prison, you know what I mean? Poverty, all these things. But all these fundings were going to everything else. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start Brown Girl Woke for myself, for us to understand, like, we can't be tokenized all the time. And when we do, we start doing work that goes outside of our community that's not helping us, but looks good in pictures, but we're still leaving our people, our kids behind. Like, how is it? Our system should be strong. We're not only religious, we have family ethics. We have too much. Like when I think about village, as I live in Samoa, in a village you have the church system, the village system, the Matai system, the woman committee system. Like,
That's a lot of systems.
how are we still leaving kids behind to break to either going to prison or doing things that you're not supposed to be doing? I see the same thing here in Cali or in America with our community or any community. We just got to look at the other communities and what they've been doing. So,
Best practices.
yeah. And when I talk about this a lot, my family, not only, you feel like when you do this work, you're like, man, or before I did this work, I was like, am I the only person that's been through all this? But you realize all of us have been through this. So Brown Girl Woke also started working with my Mexican friends. They're immigration lawyers. So we started going to the DREAM Act. When we learned about the DREAM Act, we're in like university now. I'm like, man, all my cousins that dropped out of school because they didn't have their papers, we could have just asked our brothers and sisters our Mexican brothers and sisters how their community worked out and used the DREAM Act. Because for some reason, I think we don't think we deserve to be in these, like, or we're scared that if we go into like these things that help us, that is going to shine light again and we're going to get deported.
Gotcha.
But I have a lot of family members that were undocumented that could have used this resource, but we didn't have anybody in those spaces to promote it or to make them feel safe to use it. So Brown Girl Woke started from just making girls wake up, especially women. We've been doing this work. What's the saying? Every good man, there's a better, stronger, amazing.
There's a woman that's standing all the way in the back.
But you know what I mean? Like, we have always been in the forefront. You look at COVID right now, women are always at the forefront. I'm the biggest feminist. I think Joe knows that because I always argued before. But we got to shine light on our women and the work that we do, and understanding that we got to understand what else can we do for our community. We raise men, and as much as we try to say that, we can do so much, but we have to get more resources to raise our community.
Yeah. So as far as the services that you guys actually provide through Brown Girl Woke in Samoa, what would you say those are?
So our services is youth-led programs. So when I went to university at Sac State, I was in AmeriCorps. If you guys don't know what AmeriCorps is, it's a federal government organization that gives scholarships to university students to do community service. Okay. So it's kind of like Peace Corps, if you guys know what Peace Corps. Yes. Yeah, the same idea. So I wanted to do that in Samoa, to do a youth-led program where these kids go into their own villages, their own community, and see what's happening. Because a lot of us, just like us here, we don't look at, what's happening in our own community to help, or we don't even know what's happening to know what resources we need. Like, that's domestic violence. I thought that was just every day. You know what I mean?
It's a regular Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we got to put words to this. So for me, going out to Samoa, I wanted youth-led programs because they are the next generation. Like, as people always say, that it is them that's going to change everything.
True.
There's no more excuses. Like, our parents came here as immigrants. We were, we're their hope and dreams. We did what we could. This next generation, that generation after that, we're in 5th generation PIs. You know what I mean? There is no more excuses for them not to take advantage of breaking all these generational curses that we went through. So for me, going back to Samoa, our biggest program is I give scholarships to university students. I let them go into their communities, their villages, and I ask them to go do surveys on what is the most needed. The most needed was water tanks. We did this during the measles epidemic because they didn't know about the measles epidemic. We had 84 children that died during the time from measles. We closed down, and we were going to open up in February, and Corona hit. So we've been border closed for a long time, and that's why we don't have Corona, and that's why we were so prepared, was because of the measles.
Gotcha.
So from August all the way, we've been closed. It went from the measles straight into COVID.
Yeah, there's one of our guys that's out there. I don't think he even came back yet. Whitey.
Oh yeah, he's stuck.
Shout out to Whitey out there.
Shout out to my bro Whitey. That's my bro. Yeah. Well, he's stuck. Well, he got stuck. That's a real hustler. He got stuck. Then bought him his own club, and now the borders are open, and now he can't go because he just opened his club.
Wow, yeah. Very interesting, man. Shout out to my guy out there, but. I mean, going back to the project, right? We actually we got a lot of response to that. I mean, talk about the importance of that, the water tanks.
So when we were doing surveys during measles, we realized like a lot of the families we went to, they're most vulnerable. Like the
Hmm.
most vulnerable families. Like these families didn't even live in like the Fale Samoa. They lived like in shacks. Like
Wow.
literally just brought things together and made a house. Most of the parents were like mid 20s, early 30s, living in small little shacks, had like at least 3+ kids, didn't have 2 pennies. You know what I mean? Like they were the most vulnerable. They didn't have access to water. They didn't have access to electricity. I remember interviewing a mother. Two of her kids died because she was saying that she couldn't like get breast milk because they couldn't even eat food. Like there was so much things going against her. She was like, they didn't first she didn't have formula, and then she couldn't provide breast milk. And then,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like you're going,
Yeah.
like when people are like, man, how did the measles go rapid? It wasn't only because they weren't vaccinated. It was also because the way that we're living as well. You had to isolate kids if one of your kids were how can you isolate a kid if you live in a shack
True.
with your 10 siblings and your parents?
That everybody else is
Yeah.
gonna get it.
So what we did was we went and did surveys. We realized a lot of families didn't have water. Water is hygiene. Water is
It's a
life.
necessity. Yeah.
Yeah, like you needed to clean your body, you needed to clean it from germs, you needed to drink to, stay alive. There's a lot of things you need water for. You need it for your among your plantation to grow your plants if you don't have, if you don't have enough money to eat. So water is huge. And when we did the project, we learned that so how can we do it's either water or electricity. Electricity is really expensive. We did one and it was almost 5,000 tala.
Wow.
We don't have that kind of funding agency. And mind you, grants don't give funding to do aid. You know what I mean? They do funding for projects like, workshops, not just giving out to families.
So just like a band-aid for the problem.
Yeah. So what
Gotcha.
we had to do is fundraise. Fundraising is hard because we have a trust issue with our community. Like a lot of people are scared to
Where's
send money to Samoa. Why are you laughing?
where's this money going to,
I
Doris?
know. Everyone thinks that if they send money back into the island, it's gonna go somewhere else. They don't. They have all these trust issues.
They'd be like, Doris got some new gold bamboo earrings.
You know what? My dad saw my car. I have this like mini like broken down hoopty in Samoa. My dad was like looking at my car. He's like, "See, when people see your car, they should know you're not using the money." I said, thanks, Dad. But yeah, we found out that we could get water tanks. We didn't even know water tanks were manufactured in our country. Like the
Wow.
water tank company that we work with is a Samoan organization. They're also Mormon. Big ups to Lay and the family out there. They're Craigs. And they manufacture it. We wanted to do it local. We could get it on time. And we were like, let's do our first one. Big ups to our vice president that's behind, Poe Savell. He did the first. He was like, you know what? If we just do one, it'll pour in. Let's just try it. Let's just so people know the awareness. So he actually paid him and his class, big ups to Samoana High School, American Samoa class of 1996. They
Talk
paid
about it.
they paid for the first water tank. And then after that, we're like almost into 25 water tanks since last year.
Whoa.
And they're 2,500 tala. That's 1,100 US. It's not cheap. Big ups to Achilles Project. They bought 2 water tanks
Shout out to Pete.
last month. And, that's in tribute to his son. Every 11th of the month, they're doing a fundraiser or a community event for their son in memory. So they bought 2 tanks like 2 months ago. So,
That's beautiful.
yeah, and I don't know if you guys seen the video, but one of the videos when his son was in Samoa, he's talking about the water and how families in Samoa, how do they drink water? So that's how he came up with like, you know what, this was
That was the
this is a
connection.
sign. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Like my son needs to we need to give back. So big ups to their families, Pete and Britt
Yeah.
for Afamata for donating to us.
So I mean, because that's part of the reason you're here in SoCal as well, right?
Yeah, I'm here to just promote as much as I can before I leave. Our programs, we always talk about, we have a project where you just donate 20 US a month. It goes automatic. You go onto our website, www.browngirlwoke.co/donate. And 20 US helps us, feed a family, helps us So the same families we give a water tank to is the same families we give groceries to, because the project is trying to longevity. We're trying to not only give them water, but also give them food and see where it goes from there.
Sustainability.
Yeah, sustainability.
Wow. So besides the water tank, what other projects are you guys really kind of focusing on? I mean, because again, there's so many things you can actually, especially in any society, right?
Yeah, no, like I said, when we did the survey, we first did groceries because that was the easiest thing to do when we were getting so much money. We're like, what can
Got
we
you.
give to these families? These families, like people always think, especially overseas, like you guys live on the land. You could you could
You
make a
can,
plantation. No, you actually need to maintain land, just like you maintain a house. You gotta
yeah.
pay electricity. Gotta get the same thing as plants. If these families don't have waters and don't have electricity, how can they maintain a plantation? So it's just us always giving the awareness of, what's happening in Samoa. You could always message me. I always message anybody that asks me questions. And so we started with the grocery project. We're now at a food bank. So my thing is, let's start slow. Let's see
Just
how it
build.
works.
Okay.
Yeah, and build, and then do something that's going to last longer. Sustainability and development. Like now I'm at a food bank. Now we have a storage. So now we ask all the organizations in Samoa or the businesses if they could donate food, whatever they could donate, and then we store it. Then we give it to families each week. But in order to be in our project, to get the grocery, you have to be a part of a nonprofit that gives services.
Oh, got you.
So
The families have to be connected to them.
they have to be getting services. So we
Okay.
don't just give and give to people that are not getting services. We want to make sure that they have support.
Okay. Yeah, because there's no way to kind of track it then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So we give to 5 different organizations. We give to Nuanua Lealofa, is a disability organization run by amazing women that are both blind and they're sisters. I love them so much. Big ups to...
That's dope.
Yeah, I know. To actually have a disability organization with people that run it, that actually
Then
understand.
You're disabled yourself.
Yeah, but you understand. You could fight for yourself. You could advocate for yourself. So that's one of the groups. And the next group is... Samoan returnees, all my homies. If you don't know what Samoan returnees are, they're deported from America.
Oh.
Yeah.
All your friends that just got out of prison?
Yeah.
Got
So they
you.
mostly got out of prison. They're all from LA, so they always make me feel at home. Those are all, those are all my homies. I think we only had one from the Bay, but everyone's from LA. It's probably your cousin, Joe. But big ups to my bros at the Samoan returnees. We also help them.
I used to always wonder why you're in a picture with a bunch of ex-gang members. Gotcha. Okay. I can dig it.
So we help their organization. If you guys don't know, someone returning again, they got deported from America during the Trump administration back to Samoa. A lot of them never been there. I mean, they were only there to get born and then came to America. So when they come back, they need help. So we also help them transition. If they're in the Samoan returnees organization, they actually help them transition into Samoa. And then we help with groceries with them. Because what if they don't have family in Samoa or family out here sending them money?
Dropped off and then
Yeah, but
they just chilling.
I'm telling you, all of them had got jobs in a week, like hustle. They become managers, like because they know the game.
Yeah.
They're ready for it. You've been doing time for so long. I'm ready for this. I've been ready to show my skills. So big ups to my bros.
What this the rehabilitation.
Yeah, but they also, their organization does programs for the juvenile detention in Samoa.
That's dope.
Every time I tell them to come.
What better way though?
Yeah, real gangsters. Like the kids in Samoa, you just playing with rocks. These guys,
It's
right?
the real deal.
This is real deal. So you have no excuse when you hear the real deal. So I love when they come through because I'm always like, these are real gangsters. Yeah. So I think that's my biggest thing is I learned from here to always have a support. Like, don't just give. Because when you're just giving, everyone gets used to that. And then you find that...
Yeah, because you end up coddling that, right?
Yeah.
And then you enable that, right?
And they think that's it. Then they call you all the time. They hitting you up all the time like, oh, Doris, can you give me this? Or they tell their family members, oh, all you have to do is just go over there.
And then when Doris doesn't show up one time, they're going to be like, oh, damn.
There you go. Facebook post.
Oh, son of a...
That's what but we have to not enable them. We have to be like, I always tell anybody that comes through, are you part of these organizations? As much as I post it on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on our website, people still ask, can I get help?
That's probably one of the biggest things. Is that people don't read, right?
For real.
Man, it
Even
don't matter if
flyers.
you.
What time is the event? I'm like, bro, you're looking right at the flyer. Like the flyer's right in your face.
The words are right there in the caption and on the flyer.
Yes.
And okay.
Yeah. In this text message.
Right. Let me guess. You want the best reader in the classroom. Well, okay, I get it. I mean, so for those that are actually watching this, you know what I mean, from far and wide, like what are some of the main things that you want them to kind of take away from a lot of the work that you're doing out there in Samoa?
That we all could do this. I'm no different from anybody else. I grew up Samoan, grew up in, South City, the Bay Area.
South City.
Yeah, we could all be advocates. We got to be advocates. We got to speak up. We could, even if you don't want to go this far in the work like me, having an organization, you don't have to, but you could find resources. If you have a friend in need, if you know somebody that's going through something and they can't talk out, you can go find the resources and give it to them. It's just us walking up and doing the work. We can't wait for it. There's no one that's going to knock on a door and just save us. That's not, we talk about religion and praying for it. Jesus was an activist. He was out there. He was moving. We got to start moving.
Yeah.
So anybody that's watching this, all I can say to you, I did this work from just looking for resources for our community. Yeah, I'm now here with the organization. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But just be ready and prepared for anybody that needs help. And if you're out there and you're going through something on your phone, this is one of the biggest things that we've been promoting in American Samoa. And Samoa, there's been a lot of youth suicides.
Yeah.
There's almost been 12 in American Samoa since
Ooh.
July till now. Samoa, the data still, we're still trying to figure out the data. There's been 18, but the age groups hasn't been clear. But in American Samoa, there's almost been 12. There was 3 recently in American Samoa and Samoa last month. And what the mental health task force in American Samoa and Samoa have been promoting, know who your safety net is. Who is the first people that you will go to? Make sure they're on speed dial. Because our community is still hard for us to, call the hotlines. But know who's your safety net. Who's the first person that you need to get to? Have them on your phone. Have the first 5 on your phone. So that if anything happens or any thoughts happen, you could call them. Or if you're a friend, again, look for the resources for them. Any of this work that happens, there's always people that are a part of it. You know what I mean? Like people that are in domestic violence, sexual abuse, anything that happens in our community, someone's seeing something. And if you can't do it and you're scared, ask somebody.
Yeah. How can they contact you or support what you got going on?
You could just come on our website, www.browngirlwoke.co, or Facebook, Instagram, Brown Girl Woke. I'm here for another week. I'm in LA for the weekend. Speaking, if you need someone to talk to, I'm telling you, I have sat in Samoa airport, flying to New Zealand, talking to a girl in LA that was going through suicidal thoughts. It's even that small, just
Wow.
being a voice or just being an ear to listen to. We got to listen and we got to praise instead of, lashing out. Like sometimes when you speak, when someone tells you something, you automatically don't want to hear it. But we need to find a way to praise it. Like, sis, thank you for telling me. Sis, trust me. Instead of the opposite, like, no, that didn't happen to you. So there's a lot of things that we need to unlearn that we learned so much in our community. But it's going to take all of us to be a part of this. Anybody in any level.
Man, you know what? I just wanted to say that, first of all, I'm proud of you, right? Especially a lot of the work. I mean, wow, you're a Matai. You know what I mean? We all got to bow down.
I'll wait for my box of bisupo in the back.
I got a box of pinikaki in the car. I got you. But just a lot of the work that you know what I mean? Like you definitely a pillar, you know what I mean, in our global community, you know what I mean? And I'm excited to kind of see what's going to be unfolding, man, in Samoa in the next 10 years. You know what I mean, with you being out there. And it, I think our people's, man, in a lot better place, man, to know that you're actually out there. And so just wanted to say thank you for coming on to Everyone Loves Lulu. Speak here. See love here, right here. Miss Lulu, shout out to our girl, Miss Lulu, out there in Turks and Caicos. This is our girl, the founder of Brown Girl Woke, Doris Tulifau. Love, girl.
See love, hear love, speak love. Everyone loves Lulu.